Hello and welcome to Back at Camp, Mojave County's only outdoor television show. I'm your host, Don Martin, and on today's show, we're going to do something we've never done before. We're going to talk to a man who went on an early bull hunt in northern Arizona and took a bull on film at an incredible 592 yards. That is on video. You will see the entire shooting sequence. It's a special show, so don't go away. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Welcome back to Back at Camp. I'm your host, Don Martin, and I'd like to welcome a very special guest to our show. This is Shelby Sinclair. Shelby?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Look, this is something we've never done on Back at Camp. We've never had a show where we've actually had video of a hunter taking an elk on camera at an extreme long range. And before we get to that, I want you to explain to me and tell me about this rifle that you got here that helped you make just one incredibly long shot on a giant bull elk here this fall in northern Arizona. Tell me about this firearm.
Well, this firearm here is a 6.5 284. It's built on a Remington 700 action. They did some work to the action. They rebarreled it with a Bartlein barrel, put a Bell & Carlson stock on there. We topped it off with some tally rings and this Huskema scope.
Okay.
Did a lot of work. Took a lot of time. Nothing you can do overnight.
Right.
You got to have a lot of practice.
And who built this for you?
Thomas Sinclair Rifles.
Okay.
Built this for me. And
what got you into it? What made you want to? I mean, you look at it, this is not some big heavy bull barrel takes 4 guys to carry. This looks like a standard hunting rifle.
That's basically a buddy of mine, Jeff. He had talked me into kind of going this way, and we watched a lot of videos and did a lot of research on the bullet and how it was going to perform and if it was going to be big enough to take a bull elk.
Right. Well, I mean, we look at this cartridge. That's a 6.5
by 284.
By 284. I mean, this is not some kind of a belted Magnum round like a 300 Weatherby or 338 or 3378, which, you know, that thing is huge. This looks like a standard hunting round.
Correct.
And yet it's built specifically for long-range shooting applications, including hunting, not just punch and paper, but this is a hunting gun, this is a hunting round.
That's what we built it for. It's something you can have your wife take out and shoot, or your 12-year-old kid.
The recoil is
nothing.
Nothing on that, okay? And what are, you know, to come up with a load that is tuned for this rifle, what did you do?
Well, we tried probably 15 different powders, and we tried different primers, different brass. And the combination we came up very first in our load data was the best one.
Okay.
We tried to make it better. You know, you always want it better.
Sure.
And just couldn't.
So what is the data on this? How you know, what is this round here that you got loaded with?
A 140 grain bullet.
Okay.
Shooting out of that rifle at 2,825 feet a second.
Not even 3,000 feet per second.
Not even 3,000 feet a second.
2,825 feet per second.
Yep.
It's 140 grain. Now I think it's something we're talking about and you hear about this a lot. What kind of bullets you use there?
Burger bullets.
Okay, and that's a specially designed. It's commercially manufactured.
Yep.
But it's designed specifically for long range shooting. And I know I used to hear that the bullets that were used for long-range shooting were not sufficient to use on big game animals. Obviously, now in the years that bullets have been developed, this particular bullet is very effective for using on long-range applications for hunters.
Oh, absolutely.
And, you know, what kind of animals have been taken with this particular setup right here?
We've taken probably 7 cow elk, 4 or 5 different deer, a few pigs, and a lot of paper.
And a lot of paper, and I understand a few coyotes.
A few coyotes.
I was told that on this particular hunt you're going on, that you run into a pack of 3, and when it was all over, it was a pack of none.
Yeah, they were all 3 down.
Yeah, I you know, having been a varmint hunter a lot in my life, when you see 3 coyotes and you get 1 shot, it's considered pretty good.
Right.
To get shots, even shots running away at 2 is really darn lucky, and to hear of somebody getting shots at all 3, and not just shots, but being able to connect on them, that to me is really fascinating. So, you know, it's a gun though. When you look at it, like I say, you know, here I'm expecting to see some big 1-inch bull barrel, stainless bull barrel, you know, rifle that weighs 15 pounds,
Right.
and you need 2 buddies to carry it for you. Because I do have a friend of mine that is into long range competition shooting, and he's got a 308, and it does weigh, I think, 15 pounds,
Right.
and it does take 2 guys literally to carry it. This is a standard looking hunting rifle. It's just amazing to me that this combination is worked up so that now you feel comfortable to shooting out to how far?
950.
950 yards.
Yeah.
Now, if my math is right, a mile is, I think it's 1,760 yards is a mile. So if you're shooting 900 yards, you literally can shoot over a half a mile.
Yeah, which is insane. You know, I never thought that I'd be able to shoot that far.
Right.
And if you put the time in, and you get the right optics, and I mean, you got to have all your homework done.
How long did it take you to create this?
Probably 3 years.
Okay. And you know, the thing that I really see jumps out on me is this optics on this, the scope on this. Even though I was really thinking it was going to be some scope that was going to be literally that long. I mean, it's a little longer than a standard hunting scope, and it's got the turrets on it, which normally you don't see on a standard rifle. But you know, tell me how come you ended up with this scope?
I looked at different scopes, and I looked at Night Force to see what they had, and everything I found looked real busy inside the optics.
Okay.
This basically has crosshairs, and it has windage marks. And on the turret, if you can see on the turret, above the numbers, it has another number, and that gives you your 10-mile-an-hour wind.
Okay. So
Crosswind.
wind drift, right?
Wind
Crosswind.
drift.
And you know, when you think about this, Shelby, that when you're talking about shooting at 400, 500, 600 yards, even a wisp of wind, even at 2,800 feet per second, you've got bullet drift.
Yeah, absolutely.
And being able to successfully put that bullet right where you want it at 600, 700, 800 yards, it's so imperative that you know what the wind is, not just where you're shooting from, but downrange on your target. And how do you accomplish that?
Well, there's a couple ways. You use a wind meter, but that doesn't give you the wind that's
down there.
You got to turn back your parallax. You got to look at the wind, and you got to look at the surroundings. You got to look at your bushes, see if you're getting gusts of wind down there, and if it's ethical to take a shot or not.
Right. So ethics is something that is very important in this, because if you're not perfect, the potential to cripple or wound is always there. Of course, it's always there with any setup.
Right.
So, but when you're looking at those extreme ranges and you see that you've got gust of wind and you realize that, maybe 3 out of 5 times you're going to hit, but 2 times you don't take that shot.
Correct.
You just pass on it and say,
you pass on it or try to get in a different position.
There you go. Now, so this particular scope, now this isn't something you're going to go to a local gun shop and buy, right?
No. I ordered the scope. I think I had the scope on there for probably 6 months, just shooting it before I collected my data to send off to get the turret cut for the different yardages.
Now, how do they do that? What's the procedure that they'll use?
Well, they take that thing and they laser engrave it. After you give them all your speed and your drop at different ranges, 400 and 800 yard drop.
Okay.
And they take all them calculations and they spit out a turret that tells you, okay, at 600 yards, you just turn this to 600.
And so there's no...
And there's the crosshairs.
You're not aiming over. You're aiming right where you want that bullet to hit.
Right where the crosshairs need to be.
Wow. So and then you've got the wind drift.
The wind drift.
So you're able to adjust.
You
for
don't
that?
even have to adjust for that. It just has hash marks, 4 hash marks on each side of the crosshairs.
And that's for
1 minute.
1 minute.
1 minute angle.
And what is that? What does 1 minute of angle mean to the average person?
Well, say you're at 100 yards.
Okay.
1 minute angle is going to be 1 inch to the right or left.
Okay.
And it'll tell you right above there, at 600 yards, you need to hold 3 minutes of angle for a 10-mile-an-hour wind. So if you have a 5, you're going to use 1.5.
And it's got the crosshairs. On the crosshairs, it's got the bars that tell you what the minute of angle is.
Correct.
So you're just going ahead and you're just aiming right where you want it to
hit.
go.
Yep.
Okay. And when you sight this in, where did you sight it in at? What range?
I sighted it in first at 100 yards, and then I sighted it in dead on at 200.
Okay.
Dead on at 200 was about 1.75 inches high.
Okay.
At 100. And I could have went to 3 and tried to get some extended range out of the gun, went over 1,000. But I figured the capabilities of the gun are probably at 800 to 900 yard max, unless you want to go with a bigger cartridge or a bigger caliber. So we put probably 500 rounds through it before we sent the turret off.
Just to make sure you
Just
had that
to make
load
sure
dialed.
we had everything dialed in. We didn't want to have to cut 2 turrets.
Right.
But.
And this is, just so we know, this is not a $200 scope.
No, it's not. I think they were $14.99.
Okay, so that's just that optics is more than most people will ever pay for a hunting rifle with a scope. So
I had a hard time buying that. I had a hard time swallowing that.
Yeah.
Because, I'm like, it can't be that much better. But I wish I would have bought one 10 years ago.
Yeah. And your rifle, what do you think you got in your rifle?
I have about 3,900 into it, and I got a deal on some stuff. And
now 3,900 including the scope?
No.
Just
in the rifle.
Okay. So this is a pretty expensive outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah, not something you want to just let bounce around your back of your pickup.
Right.
Okay. Folks, when we come back, we're going to talk some more to Shelby about his gun, his load development, but then we're going to talk about his Northern Arizona early rifle bull hunt that he just got back from, and you're going to see a shot that you're just not going to believe. So don't go away. We're going to be right back after a word from our sponsors. Welcome back to Back at Camp. I'm your host, Don Martin. On today's show, I'm talking with Kingman resident Shelby Sinclair about his custom rifle that he had built, that he's been practicing with, and he's going to take an elk at a distance you're not going to believe. Shelby, tell me a little bit more about this cartridge. Where does it fit in? Is it bigger than say a 243?
Well, it's a 6.5 284. It's a little bigger than a 243.
Okay.
And a little smaller than a 270.
Okay, so I think probably everybody knows what a 243 shoots a 100-grain bullet. 270 can shoot a 130, a 150. That's a standard.
Right.
So this cartridge here is kind of right there in the middle. Low recoil.
Right in the middle. Low recoil.
This rifle's not going to jump out of your hand and all that kind of thing. So it's just a specialized version of a rifle cartridge that has been developed for long-range shooting and long-range hunting applications. Now, you do your own loading for this?
Absolutely.
Okay. And it's not something where I suspect that every one of your loads is hand-checked because it has to be exactly the same.
Yeah, you want them exactly the same. If you have a 15, 20 foot second or 20 feet per second difference in your round at 800 yards, now you're talking 20, 22 inches.
Right. So it's got to be exact.
Yeah, it's got to be exact.
And okay, so let's talk about now. We've talked about this gun. We've talked about the round. What kind of optics do you use and to get those ranges?
First off, I started with a Leica 1600 yard rangefinder, and it works really well. It's only a 6 power, so at the extended range, it's kind of hard sometimes to get on what you're looking at, and you got to be real steady.
Right.
You can't be moving around and trying to range something. So I went with the Swarovski 10x42 EL's with the rangefinder in them.
With the built-in rangefinders.
Yeah.
Okay, so your binocular is actually a rangefinder too, and I know they say that the accuracy of those things out to 1,000 yards is plus or minus 4 yards.
Right.
So that's very acceptable for the distances that you're shooting.
Correct.
Okay, so now let's fast forward. 2013, you apply for early rifle bull unit 10.
Yes. Actually applied myself and my wife on separate tags. And
your son.
And my son. We put him in early rifle bull first choice, cow second choice. And me and my wife just put in for bull. Only. So when we found out they were taking money, we found out that we were drawn for 2 tags.
You got 2 tags. You didn't know who.
We don't know who and didn't know what.
But
we knew one of them had to be a bull.
Right, because you applied for 3 early bull as your first choice, and you've got hit twice.
Right.
So somebody's got an early bull tag.
Somebody got an early bull tag. And then it was, I don't know, 3 weeks or a month before we actually found, somebody called me and said, hey, the results are out. Give them a call or get online. Well, I was out working, so I'm trying to dial the phone. And, of course, it's busy every time. And then finally I got through and punched in my information. They told me I was unsuccessful for antelope, and they said I was successful for elk. And then I was like, wow.
Because you only applied for early bull.
Right.
So,
and then they said hunt number 3005. And
right.
I knew what that was.
That's unit 10.
That's unit 10 early rifle bull. And I thought, whoa. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. And my chest started hurting.
How many tags have it there?
I think they had 75 tags this year.
Okay.
And usually about 6,000 or 7,000 people put in for it.
Yeah.
So it's not easy to draw.
And it wasn't like you had a fistful of bonus points.
No, I didn't have a fistful. I think I had 3, maybe 4.
I don't want to tell you how many points that I've had, but anyway, yeah, I can understand. There's a little animosity out there when somebody with fewer than 5 draws a premium tag. Of course, you're an Arizona resident.
Yes.
Non-residents are locked out on that. If they're not up in that max pool, they're not getting in. So, do you remember what your tag number was?
It was tag 39.
Okay, so you didn't draw on the 10% or the 20% pass, which is for those that had the maximum bonus point. So there would have been the first 1 through 15 would have been those folks who had maximum bonus points that applied for that hunt. So you're not in that group. You just drew you got a random number and it was super low and bingo. So now you got a tag of a lifetime.
Yep, I got a tag of a lifetime, and now it's time to go scouting.
Okay, and you hunted on the Boquillas.
Yes, I did.
Okay, and you did some scouting with some friends.
Yeah, I did a lot of scouting. I had a lot of friends up there helping me scout. And we found a lot of big bulls. A lot of them were jumping the fence to the res, of course.
Okay.
But we found...
There's a couple of Indian reservations, for those that don't know, that border Unit 10. You got Supai and you got the Wallapai Indian Reservation. So without giving away your honey holes, let's just say that he was hunting near an Indian reservation, and they were able, and it's not uncommon at all in that unit, to see bulls go from a reservation to the public land and then back across.
Right,
so you guys have been watching some bulls, and you saw some pretty good bulls.
Yeah. We actually found the bull that we were going to shoot. I mean, we were up there probably 4 days before the hunt, and Thursday night, hunt started Friday morning, we actually found the one that we wanted to go after.
Right.
And so basically we went back to camp. Everybody had started pouring in and showing up, and we had a game plan set up. Everybody was going to set around the outskirts of this area and glass for us. Why we went in.
Quality glass.
With quality glass.
You got to have quality glass when you're looking miles and miles and miles.
Oh, absolutely.
Shelby, when you're out there and you're, like you said, you passed on a lot of bulls, you actually got some video of some of the bulls out there fighting.
Yes.
And actually breaking antlers out there.
Yes. Actually, the one we were going to go after ended up starting to lock up with a 6x6 and ended up breaking himself off right past his G4s.
Jeez.
Ended up breaking the 6x6 off on his G5s.
So we get,
you'll get to see a pretty good fight.
There's some good fighting going on.
Yeah.
Those bulls were definitely hot in the rut.
Yeah.
So you've got a plan all worked out with your guys, with your buddies, that you're going to get on different locations and look. That bull's in there, and now you just got to wait. And of course, you're not alone up there.
No.
You had other outfitters up there. You had other hunters up there.
Yes. When we found that bull in the morning and went back and looked at him that Thursday night, there wasn't a soul.
So you're thinking,
I'm thinking, we're good. There ain't going to be nobody out here.
Friday morning,
we're going to be done. Well, Friday morning comes around, and there's 4 other hunters down chasing these herds of elk. Luckily, the bull we were looking for wasn't with the herd. He was sitting back, kind of waiting for the rut to really start.
right?
We looked for him for probably about 5 hours and couldn't locate him.
Wow.
Didn't know where he went.
But you've got other hunters out there.
We got other hunters. And
Okay, so clock's running.
clock's running. We got to go look at some other places we had seen some big bulls, and we ended up in some real rough country, and we found some bulls. They're 700-800 yards away, but nothing we wanted to take.
Okay.
So we ended up coming back to camp that night with nothing.
Opening day, lots of bulls.
Lots of bulls. I think we passed up 18 to 20 bulls.
Okay, so now day 2.
Day 2, we get another game plan. We're going to go to a different area where we had seen some bigger bulls. We get down there, and they're there. It's dark. You can't see to shoot them. And they're right by the fence line. And the majority of them end up jumping over just before light.
Right.
And there's one that's out there about 3 miles, and he's probably a 375, 380 bull.
Definitely a big
Definitely a
big
shooter.
guy.
Yeah, you could tell. And
so
we kind of rolled down there and got a hold of one of our buddies to come glass for us while we went down and make sure he didn't cross the fence. Because
Right.
it was a 3-mile walk, and it was pretty much all downhill, and it was going to be
Right.
all uphill on the way back.
Right.
So they got there. That bull jumped the fence within 5 minutes, and we turned around,
Gone.
headed back up.
Right. So now
So
now,
we had made a plan that we were going to end up setting up and meeting at a spot at noon. So everybody was going to meet back at noon so we could get a hold of everybody and see if they had seen anything. So we end up back to our spot, and one of my buddies shows up and says, "Hey, we found that bull."
the bull
The bull we were looking at.
Okay.
So we jump in the truck, and we shoot on down there, and it's about a 3.5 mile walk in. So here we go. We truck it on in there, and we set up about 1,000 yards away. We're looking at them, and you can't see all of them because there's little rollers and stuff. So we decided 3 of us would move off and try to get closer so we could look over the little roller and see what was in there. And they were all bedded down. There was probably, I'd say 80, 100 elk in that herd, and there's probably 12 bulls. So we're looking, trying to find this big one that they had seen, and they can't find it either. Well, come to find out, in the time that we were gone and came back, this big bull had ended up breaking himself off right past his G-force.
Oh.
So
he's out of the game. He
game.
gets a free pass now.
He gets a free pass.
So now you're looking for other shooter bulls.
We're looking for other shooter bulls, and finally, we probably laid there for probably about 4 hours. That's a long time.
That's a long time.
And finally, this one was down in the bottom in the drainage, and he had worked his way up, and there he was.
How far was he?
He was probably about 620 yards at that time.
He's within your shooting
He's
range.
well within the shooting range.
So what did you do?
We waited for him to come up, and he bedded down. And I told my buddies, I'm like, well, when he stands up, let's shoot him. They're like, okay.
He's a 7x7.
He's a 7x7. He's a nice bull.
Not broke.
Not broke. Let's just put him down. So I tried to get the range, and he's kind of in the bushes, so you get range of the bush, range behind the bush. So let's just wait for him to stand up. You guys range him, I'll shoot him. He stands
Prone
up.
position.
Prone position, laying
Only
down.
time you're going to shoot long distance, prone position.
Prone position.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm laying down. He stands up. They range him. And my buddy Ryan's like, hey, let's wait till he steps out into the sun. I'm like, okay. It'll be better video. And I'm thinking, I'm just going to shoot this thing. So he steps out and he mills around with the cow. Cow kind of peels off of him. He walks a couple more steps. They range him again. He's 592 yards.
589.
I said, all right. Click the safety off, pull the trigger, and the video pretty much tell the rest.
Yeah, down he goes.
Down he goes.
Wow, that's incredible. You know, we're sitting here looking at this, and we can see the vapor trail of the bullet when you're firing it, and you can actually track it as it's going into that bull.
Right.
Now, do you have any idea what that bull scores?
I think he scored like 345 or something like that.
Okay, that's a great bull. That's a great bull. Shelby, we gotta go, man. But I'm telling you, that's an outstanding story. Congratulations on taking an awesome bull and doing it the way you did it. And folks, I got to tell you this. This is a very specialized situation with an individual that has shot thousands and thousands of rounds. This is not something ethically that you should do if you're a weekend type hunter. Know what your range is. You may only be able to shoot 300 yards. That's plenty far enough. Look, we got to go. Want to thank Shelby Sinclair again. Awesome story, awesome setup. Until next week, this is your host, Don Martin, saying keep your firearms oiled, your fishing line fresh, and we'll see you next week back at camp.